What is up, Unity community, and welcome back to another official Unity live stream here on twitch.tv/Unity and of course the Unity YouTube page. My name is Jackson and I am one of your community managers, and it is my job to bring you all of the content that you see on these platforms. So whether you're watching live here on Twitch and YouTube now or as a VOD after the fact, thank you so very much for being here. If you are here with us live in the moment on Twitch and YouTube, please be aware that this is a conversation, and a big part of my job is to bring your questions and comments to the guests that we'll have on today's stream. So if you see me looking off to the side and or typing, chances are high that I will be in that chat alongside you all. Again, with all of these content pieces that we put together, we're live twice a week, and it is our hope that you come here, connect with your fellow Unity community and the representatives at Unity itself whenever we're able, and that you leave feeling more confident, capable, informed, educated, as more so than when you came in. So again, thank you to everybody for being here. We've got a fantastic show. We will be talking about what is new and exciting in Unity 6.2, and we are bringing in representatives from each of the features and tools themselves so that you guys can ask any questions. Now, to set expectations for today's stream, this, like so many of our other streams, will be very conversational in flow and tone. If you guys are super duper eager to get all of the information like that, there is now a link in the chat that will take you to our discussions post about 6.2. It'll give you an overview of each of the topics and where you can find more information. Today's stream will focus a lot on the what and the why. What is the new features? What doors do we think it'll open? Why should people be excited about it? Some of these features will have demos today, and some will have dedicated streams in the near future. So we've got a lot going on. And if you stick around for the end of the show, our final guest, the legend themselves, Mike Geig, will have some merch to give away. So lots to look forward to. And thank you again for tuning in. As a community manager, one of the most encouraging, heartwarming, happy things that we get to experience is to see where in the world everybody connects from. So please let me know in the chat where in the world you are tuning in from, and we will get things started here with the stream. I'll give you a little bit of an overview of what to expect. But before we do that, we do have some housekeeping because Unite 2025 is on the horizon. Thank you very much for that, Trey. At Unite 2025, reconnect with the Unity community as we return to Spain for 2 full days of learning, networking, and memorable experiences. We'll be showcasing inspiring stories, demos, sessions, our annual keynote, after-hours events, and more. For more information, please visit unity.com/events/unite. And thank you very much. You can also follow that QR code on the screen. If things are a little bit different around here today, we've got Trey working behind the scenes. You might recognize Trey from the Unity discussions pages as one of our other community managers who has graciously stepped in to lend us a hand. So everyone say hey to Trey and show a little appreciation whenever you are able. But again, we're seeing people tuning in from all over the world here. We've got San Antonio, Las Vegas, Guadalupe, Pakistan, Montreal, bonjour, France, also bonjour, OKC, Finland, moi moi. Everybody, thank you so much wherever you are tuning in from. We are so grateful to have you here. Now, what is today's stream going to look like? Like I said, the what and the why, what is coming and why you should be excited. We're going to be talking about Graph Toolkit. We're going to be talking about World Space UI for UI Toolkit. We're going to be talking about Mesh LODs, Unity AI, of course, and the ever sexy, the developer data framework. So get excited for all of these things. Again, I'm looking forward to it. Any opportunity we get to connect with you all and start to kind of generate and be a part of the excitement around new features is a very exciting one for me as well. So without further ado, let's get this show started here. We are welcoming to the stream a first-time guest. We're going to be talking about Graph Toolkit. So please give the warm Unity welcome that I know you know how to give to Eric. First timer for a show. Let's bring out an Eric here. Boom! We got Eric in the house. How are you?
Hey. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to be here with you, Jackson.
Good. I'm excited to have you, Eric. Again, I find that any opportunity to connect everybody in the Unity community to the people working on the features and tools, and ask the questions directly is always a valuable opportunity. So Eric, thank you so much for being here. As a first-time guest, as we're about to dive into some new features, can you kind of give everybody a little bit of background about yourself, the work that you do here, and your connection to the Graph Toolkit?
Yeah, sure. I've been at Unity for 3.5 years now. I've worked on a number of areas, currently providing product coverage for animation, world building, and graph tools, among a couple other areas, and came from game production for most of my career, some 3D animation as well back in the day. Started out more on the animation and rigging side and worked my way up to art director, creative director of studios before switching to product 3.5 years ago.
Were there any like games or projects that you worked on that you're particularly proud about?
All of them, honestly.
Love that.
But I mean, I was at a startup bringing brands and events to Second Life back in the day.
Whoa.
Did some 3D animation for ABC News for a couple years, and then a lot of stuff that no one would have ever seen, kind of games for training, but some AR and VR stuff that was really fun to work on with a studio down in San Antonio. And then, coming here now.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you. Graph Toolkit is new. It's out. It's in the wild. I know we also put out a technical overview video on YouTube. So if anyone wants to dive into that, I put the link in the chat for you all as well. You can go look at, I think it's 15, 16 minutes, and it kind of gives you the nitty gritty. But Eric, I know that you kind of prepared some slides for people. We're going to give everybody an overview here, and then we have some questions that are already coming in. But again, in the Unity community, if you're watching, put a big Q in front of it and let us know, and we'll try to get those questions answered. So Eric, do we want to get started with the slides? Are you feeling good about it?
Yeah, let's do it. And to be fair, these were done by Anita, our wonderful product designer on Graph Toolkit. So big shout out to Anita and Jed for all the help on this deck. Let's get into it. What is Graph Toolkit? Why should we care? So Graph Toolkit is an API framework that empowers developers to build custom editor-based graph tools. And so you can see some of the stuff we're going to talk about a little bit there on the right. And what are graph tools? These are node-based interfaces that simplify complex systems and enable developers and designers to work visually and intuitively. So it's really about empowering non-coders, to be honest, and a way for folks to create tools that empower those non-coders to add or edit content in a visual manner without having to touch a line of code. So that's what it really enables.
Eric, sorry to jump in. I do also want to point out that we have Simon in the chat in both Twitch and YouTube. Simon is a Unity representative. So if he is answering your questions, there is a high likelihood that he has the answers and you should trust them. So just to give the disclaimer that if you see Simon popping in, he's one of ours.
Yeah, that's great to know. Simon's awesome. So I'm sure he'll do a great job. So here are some examples of graph tools that exist within Unity today. So on the upper left is visual scripting. So I will clarify that Graph Toolkit is not visual scripting, because a lot of people do confuse that on discussions in other areas or assume that the two are the same, but they're not. On the upper right, we have Shader Graph. Shader Graph 2 is slated to use Graph Toolkit to bring that kind of common UI and UX from Graph Toolkit into Shader Graph. On the lower left, we see MechAnim. That's our existing animation system. And so the next iteration of our animation tools will also feature an updated state machine using Graph Toolkit. So again, trying to give that common UI and UX across our tooling where we can. And then on the lower right, we have our VFX graph. So that's just 4 examples of some graph tools that currently exist within the Unity editor today. And so why would you build this? What are the benefits? So again, you can visualize complex systems and give it a better way to interact with these systems and all the dependencies and relationships. So if you're making a very data-driven system, it's a lot easier to edit, debug, manage, understand in a graph usually. And then in terms of boosting productivity, if your designers, artists, and other non-coders aren't having to go bug an engineer every time they want to make an update, that's a huge help. I know I always appreciated that as a former rigger and animator. I would want to be able to make updates myself, see them live, and not have to constantly go back and forth with an engineer and feel like I'm distracting them from something more valuable, which I would assume I would be. So, and then it's also a good tool to reduce errors, having those visual workflows and relationships and being able to kind of see all that, you're less prone to errors when you're able to kind of interact in that way. So some ideas of custom graph tools that we've heard of or seen, having a branching narrative graph in particular, and being able to see that and having your kind of writers or folks creating content on a written level, being able to go make updates themselves, and again, not needing to go bug an engineer, take them off of something, some gameplay functionality or something like that is really valuable. Or a mission designer, saying you're trying to have node-based conditions and ways for your game designers to iterate fast on gameplay without having to write code. That can be valuable. And then I'm sure Benoit later will be happy to see UI represented here and seeing an example of a UI designer graph. This hasn't been as common, but it would be interesting to be able to trigger, say, VFX or sounds or animations or anything else in a node-based system without any need to write code. So that's kind of what we're showing there. Let's see some other benefits. So we did have a little closed access with a few asset store developers and game studios. Faces have been replaced by GIFs, so that to protect the innocent here.
That's good of you.
Certainly don't want to put anyone on the spot, but
Sure.
If they're watching, they know
Okay.
who they are.
Yeah.
And so what was great to hear is both instances, unprompted by us, they said that they saved about half the time getting started in comparison to our former offering, which was called Graph View. And so that was great to hear. It was good validation. And what we want to communicate is that this is a framework, and it's a supported framework within Unity, whereas Graph View was more of a UI library. So in the past, you'd call components or functions through code for Graph View, whereas Graph Toolkit can offer a bit more right out of the box, including undo, redo, serialization, and a lot of other kind of features. Some being the subgraphs or portals. These we'll touch on a little bit more in a second, but these are big improvements over what was available in Graph View. So, all right, some of the feature highlights we wanted to share with you all today. In terms of panels, these are all kind of built using the overlay system. And so this is a blackboard. This is on the left, it's an area to define all of the variables that are going to get used in your graph. And so they can kind of be dragged and dropped into the graph from the blackboard, which is, we think, a nice feature. And then we have a local inspector that can help you add context, and it's in context of the graph, but you're able to kind of interact with the graph kind of like you would in the regular inspector in the editor, but directly in the graph. And then we have a number of predefined variable settings that have colors and icons and a way to kind of quickly visually distinguish what you're interacting with on the variable level. And in time, we'll make that more exposed so you can customize to your liking. Then we have a mini map. So as your graphs get large, a branching narrative graph or an animation state machine, you could end up with hundreds or thousands of nodes typically. So being able to quickly, easily hone in on that mini map is critical. And then we've got an item library that is a good way to kind of search all your stuff quickly and easily. It does come with a fuzzy search and a favorite system built in. So some of the things you'd see in like a modern OS, they're kind of built right into the graph. In terms of the base graph widgets, these are the base components of a graph. You have nodes. Any node-based system, you're going to have nodes. You're going to have wires to connect the nodes. You're going to have a toolbar system created with overlays, and that comes with a full like breadcrumb system and buttons to help you navigate and get through. And then they're second to the end on the right, subgraphs. So the idea here is that you can kind of combine nodes or make it so that you can have kind of local or global assets of subgraphs. You can kind of just like compress them down into one node and reuse it anywhere in your functionality. And then on the far right, you'll see contexts and blocks. So context nodes, they're great if you have kind of a stack of operations you want to line up all together. Back in the day using 3ds Max, for instance, it had a modifier stack. So you could kind of understand the order of operations in that. So that's kind of where you would use that. And then the operations in general, this is more about, basic commands, undo, redo, copy, paste, the hotkeys you kind of expect, or selection, and making sure that we support not only kind of a selection box when you drag, or kind of a lasso-based tool to select just what you want. We have an auto pan feature, so you can kind of drag an item and have it pan the graph automatically. Or you can create a placemat, for instance. So if you want to kind of group a bunch of nodes and be able to move them around as that group. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading placement, not placemat, which is later.
Gotcha.
Placement options like alignment or distribution or snapping to the grid. Anyone who's a little OCD like myself wants the visual perfection there, that'll help you achieve that. And then in terms of deletion operations, it's very similar to the selection, where you can kind of freeform lasso and drag through, or select and group select. All right, so quality of life improvements. Another thing that we really love is the idea of portals. So instead of having to drag a wire across some giant graph, if you wanted to create a portal to just kind of connect across an entire graph, you don't need those long wires, and this is a way to do that. We have a automatic LOD system, so that as you're zooming in and out, it will automatically show you what it can in the resolution it can. We also offer some sticky notes as your graph gets big, or if you're trying to make sure that you can pick up back where you left off weeks later or years later, or make sure that it's got some sort of comments when you're collaborating with other members of your studio. The sticky notes are a great way to do that. And then I think I mentioned this before by accident, but here's the placemats. If you're grouping elements and wanting to drag them around as a group, that's a good way to do that. So I believe that's pretty much everything. And if there's any interest in this, you can install it via the package manager today using the text on screen, com.unity.graphtoolkit. There's a QR code if you want to go directly to our discussions page and see some of the thoughts and interest there. And this is all part of Unity 6.2. as is everything in this live stream.
Awesome. Eric, crushed it. Felt good. Did you feel good about it?
Yes. Yeah. A little nervous, but this is fun.
Yeah. So again, we've got links that we'll be continuing to put in chat right now. The one I just put in there will take you to the discussions post that has 6.2 and all of the links about all of the features, the download. It's a one-stop shop, and it's made by Trey, who's also running today's show. Go Trey. Eric, I know there's a dedicated Graph Toolkit post, which is also linked off from there. So we're going to do some Q&A for each of these segments, including right now. But if we don't have an answer for you, or we don't have time to get to all of the questions, go to discussions, because we have people constantly monitoring and trying to respond to as many things as possible. And we're there and eager to try and get you all of that information. So as we segue into Q&A, and we'll provide the disclaimer now and probably again in future, Eric is one human being and is not the only human being that is creating Graph Toolkit. So we'll try and bring as many questions to Eric as possible. But Eric, if there's something that we bring to you and you're like, that's not my area of expertise, or on the other side of things, we have to be hush-hush about future updates or those types of things, just be very transparent with us and let us know. I'm not the right person, or we can't say anything at this time, all right? So everyone's on the same page. I also want to thank, obviously, Simon, but also Mike Geig is also in chat, answering as many questions as we possibly can. And Unity community, if you have any, throw a big Q in front of your message and throw it in chat so that we can see here. We did have a handful that I've collected for you, Eric. So Jihad has asked pretty early on, Graph View is stuck in experimental for years. Is it going to be phased out now that we have Graph Toolkit? Please don't depreciate is the follow-up. Do we have any insight to that?
Yeah, so we have no current plans to deprecate Graph View, but if we see that Graph Toolkit over time gets enough adoption and we don't feel a need to continue supporting Graph View, we would consider deprecating it. But yeah, not currently any plans for that. Graph Toolkit is in an experimental release state, and that's as far as Graph View ever got. But we fully intend to get Graph Toolkit to pre-release and then fully supported and release status as soon as we can, so that people can kind of trust that we won't take it away. That's the idea.
That's an important thing, and I'm glad that we were able to give some reassurance there as well. An Angelinier asking, can it be used to connect scriptable objects so that designers can connect level definitions or stuff like that?
I honestly can't say. I think that'd be a great question for discussions, and we can make sure that our team of engineers can answer more technical stuff like that. My gut tells me yes, but I can't make that promise.
Gotcha. No, I like that as well. The other thing that's happening, and I already saw it once, is when the community has feedback about these specific tools, go and share that as well. I know, like, obviously we're sending you to ask questions and try and get answers, but if you have general feedback, we have people like our principal advocate, Mike Geig, who will be in the show later today, who is very dedicated to relaying your feedback about the product, about the different features. So again, if you have thoughts and feelings about things and what could improve them or make them more usable for you, make sure to share that info.
We do genuinely read all the comments and feedback on discussions. It's something the team does take seriously, and we always appreciate it. Any feedback, good or bad.
Yeah. Another one for you here, the Mian asking, can the node blocks be colored and separated like in Blender or Unreal? And I know that you kind of showed was it Canvas with the colored background and being able to swap those? Is that kind of the same functionality, or is there anything deeper than that?
I can't speak to all the functionality of customization in that detail, but I do know that you can make custom nodes. It's a full API. I can't recall whether or not there's full customization on every aspect, but that is the intent, is to make it as customizable as possible and as extensible as possible. We want to understand what bottlenecks you all hit and how we can unblock those over time if we can.
Gotcha.
That is our intent. We can't always enable everything, but we try to.
Yep, of course. This is another functionality one, so we might be in a similar situation where, like you said, you don't know the ins and outs of every single nook and cranny, but Mandisa W says, will we be able to create links across graphs, which would be better for compartmentalization?
So I think I think I touched on the portals feature. So if they mean across different parts of the same graph, absolutely. I'm not as certain about links across completely separate graphs, but that's a great question. I could certainly see a need for that. So that's something that if we don't already support, we would love to hear about that on discussions and look to see if that's something we could support in time.
Awesome. We have one more question that kind of came in here, Eric, as we were chatting. False Bracket asking, is there a timeline on being able to create graphs purely from code and without an asset? I've been looking to port an existing tool to Graph Toolkit, and that's the big thing that I need.
Yeah, I think that has come up a lot on discussions. And so if that individual has asked, that is actually our highest priority for near term. Is to unlock that. So building graphs with code is probably the thing our team wants to focus on first in the near future to ensure that we're not blocking folks from switching to Graph Toolkit and that they can generate graphs entirely from code if they want, or that's the intent. We'll try to get as far with that as we can in a time frame that we can.
Yeah, it is also worth pointing out, and I know that we had it in our notes from some of our discussions, Eric, that like we don't just put this out and then that's it, hands off, right? It's something that's continuing to be analyzed and iterated and built on top of. So again, that feedback's really important. And if there's something that you want to see, make sure that you're letting us know and we're doing what we can. So I know we have a couple of additional questions, but we also have a lot of other features to get through. So at this point, we're going to kind of wrap things up. And again, I'll encourage everybody to go to discussions and try to follow that as well. We've got Mike kind of following up before we let you go, Eric. Any indication of if this package will ever be available on GitHub?
I don't know, honestly, on that one. I mean, as a package, people pretty much have access to source. You know, they can kind of see what we're doing. So I'm not sure about the GitHub side.
Gotcha. We also have Mike who says that he'll share more on this later if need be. So don't worry about it. Eric, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk about Graph Toolkit, to share your expertise and your knowledge, and ultimately to represent the tool, the feature. And again, if anyone has any additional questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, please head on over to discussions, and Eric and the team will likely be in there, excited to help you out when they can. Eric, thank you again so much.
Thanks, Jackson.
Take care, Eric. Have a good one. All right, everybody, and that's going to wrap us up on a Graph Toolkit. What we've got coming up for you next will be a bit of a shorter segment, as it'll be a little bit more direct in terms of demos. Again, today we are talking about the different features in 6.2. We are talking about the what and the why. What is coming? Why should you be excited? What is it unlocking? And why have we included it? This next one will include a demo because it is a little bit more streamlined. And we've got Benoit and Esteban joining us as we're going to be talking about World Space UI and UI Toolkit. So please give them a warm welcome, like I know that you can. Please welcome to the show, Benoit and Esteban. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Oh my gosh, super good, super good. Started the day in this very sunny Seattle, right?
Oh, sunny Seattle, can't go wrong. Once again, Unity community, as we talk about World Space UI for UI Toolkit, please let us know if you have any questions. Although I think this one is going to be pretty self-explanatory, and we're going to show you how to use the tool itself as well. Esteban, you've been on the stream a handful of times, but again, if anyone is unfamiliar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
Sure thing. My name is Esteban. I'm one of the developer advocates at Unity, and so you've probably seen other teammates on the team like Manu, Mike. We're all coworkers. We're all advocates, and we all love meeting game developers and just spread the word of new cool Unity technology, kind of like what we're doing today. So
exactly,
that's what's up.
So we've got the right person in the room, and the other individual also the right person in the room. Benoit, welcome to the stream. Can you tell people a little bit about the work that you do?
Yes, of course. So I'm a product manager for more than 7.5 years now at Unity. I'm based in Montreal, and I cover everything related to UI. So the UI systems we have, the authoring workflows that extends to also text technologies, localization, accessibility, and also the user interface of the editor itself, right? All the components used to build it, all the core workflows, working with the scenes, searching through assets, and all that stuff.
That's great. So we've got you both here. Benoit, I know you're going to give us a bit of an overview. Esteban, you're going to give us a bit of a demo. I'd like to hand the reins to you, Benoit. Whenever you are ready, we can dive in and get the ball rolling.
Go, Benoit.
So I wouldn't be a good product manager if I didn't have any slides. But we're going to go to a live demo pretty soon. But before we do so, I just wanted to give you like a quick overview of what is WorldSpace UI and why so many of you have been asking for it. So up until today, or up until 6.2, actually, the only way to render UI with UI Toolkit was what we called screen space overlay. This is a fancy term to just say that the UI system waits for whatever that happens in the scene, like simulation and rendering, to be done, and then it renders the UI as an overlay on top of it. So it has no awareness or understanding of where the camera is. It's just going to lay out UI elements based on screen size and resolutions of whatever the device it's running on, right? So this is the most common way to make UI, right? You're going to have going to use that for game menus, but also player HUD elements like player avatar or a minimap or health bars. And interestingly enough, many of you have been asking for WorldSpace UI support. The reason is for having health bars. And I understand why, because you want the UI to track objects in WorldSpace, but the UI itself doesn't have to be WorldSpace. You can actually do that today with some scripting, right? You can have access to helper functions that help you translate coordinates between screen space and WorldSpace. We can have UI elements track your characters. But there is some very legitimate scenarios where you want the UI to actually be attached to the game object and follow it around, or to be positioned and transformed in 3D, right? You want it to be moved around, scaled, rotated, or be hidden by geometry, just like any other type of 3D objects. So that's what WorldSpace UI allows you to do. So you can create some fancier UI with a lot of immersiveness to it, or if you want to have UI that kind of sits in the WorldSpace for your characters to see and interact with, right? And of course, if you want to make XR interactive experiences, well, it's a must-have, right? Your UI is literally part of the 3D environment. And for those use cases, we worked very closely with the XR team here at Unity because they know the platform much better than we do. So they really helped us, understand and support the most common use cases for XR. And Esteban will show you in a moment, and it's very simple to get you started with WorldSpace UI. It's not a different system. You're using the exact same workflows, the same authoring tools. You have access to the same, powerful layout and styling capabilities, animation, text, input. Everything works out of the box. Essentially, the only difference that you have is now you have access to the Z-axis when wanting to move or rotate UI elements, when you can create this very cool interaction with a lot of depth, especially if you want to create XR interactive experiences. So that's pretty cool. So that's what I have for slides now. I'll let Esteban show you what it looks like in action.
Love that. Benoit, crushed it. I know, like, You're a professional. I don't know why we would expect anything less, but you that was great. That was smooth.
Thank you.
Of course. And we can throw things over to Esteban. It's now your time to shine.
Dang. I don't know how I'm gonna follow Benoit. Like, killed him, but I'm gonna try my best. All right. So they said I have a demo. I guess that's true. I got Unity run. So no, jokes aside, but yes, we're seeing this as this demo here. Tank Sandbox. All of the UI that you're gonna see here today is in fact done by UI Toolkit. And like Benoit mentioned, yeah, we're the first example that you see is with Screen Space UI. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start this little game right here. And I got some of these tanks going. I can move around. And as you can see, I can actually go ahead and change the turn speed. It's a little bit subtle. Now it's a little bit faster. And it's been displayed by this cool little pie chart. So if I go ahead and shoot and I damage some of the tanks, I'm like, oh, I did some damage. Let me check in this scroll bar at the bottom right. I'm like, that's not really kind of useful, especially for real-time gameplay. So let's actually change that up a little bit. I think I have a better solution. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the game, and see if we can actually add a little something to those tanks. So I'm gonna go ahead and search over here. I got my tank prefab open, and this is prefab of like the little tank that I was controlling earlier. So far so good. And we see in the hierarchy on the left here that we have a game object conveniently called UI. Oh my god, what a surprise. I did not expect that. So now if we go over here into, let me add a little bit of room to the inspector, we have this UI document. This is like the main entry point so that UI can actually start being rendered. And we see that we have a little setting over here called panel settings that is currently missing. So panel settings are really like a files that sort of like dictate how the UI is going to be rendered by those files that Benoit mentioned, like the UXML files, the USS files. So I'm going to go ahead and have two options: screen space and world space. And given the day that it is, I think that world space is the best option. Now, whoops, and I actually left setup screen space. So now we'll say, let me actually back out of this real quick. So now, even though we added like those panel settings, essentially, like when we go here and we look into the file, really the main difference, like you can reuse these panel settings. It's just that it's good practice to have a panel setting for screen space UI and another one for world space. But essentially, like switching between the two modes is really just one click away. If you see here on the top right on my screen. So really to get started, world space is like can be literally just a click away, depending on how simple or how complex you want to go. So let me go ahead back into my tank prefab, and now we got this little UI that was made up. It's got a little label that'll display the health. And if you go over here, you can if you go over here, once you set like a world space panel settings, you can actually like modify some things like for example, how is it that it's going to be sized and the layout. But just to show you a little bit, it's a little bit of a short demo. So just to show you some of the options you got here, you can actually even set pivot points for your UI. So I'm going to change it to top center, bottom center, left center, and all that good stuff. So many options for you to play with and just like start organizing UI. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. And let's go ahead and play the scene again. So here we go. Now we actually start, and here we have all of the UI ready to go and showing the actual damage and the actual HP of all the tanks directly in world space. So this can be used for many for many other uses, but I wanted to show you that you can actually draw something like health directly on a character. And by the way, quick shout out to the beginning, this little pie chart that you see right here, it's the same element being used for displaying the health in sort of like that graphical view. So showing again like the power of reusability when you create UI elements. And as a little bonus, I got something going for you because a lot of people have been curious, and actually some people reached out to me about XR. And I went ahead and explored. I wanted to show this quick video of the samples for mixing XR with UI Toolkit directly. And this is a little video of me like using the XRI samples that you can actually import a world space UI sample scene and interact with it. So yeah, honestly, a lot of good stuff. You can use it for health bars and even for interacting with menus in XR. So yeah, a lot of people are asking for this, and they're really happy that this landed. So thank you, Benoit, for your work and for all the team, all the developers and everything. Yeah.
Mostly the team, yeah. Thank you.
I love already, we've seen it so many times in just this stream, everybody sharing credit. It's one of my favorite things as a team member of any kind, but that's fantastic. Thank you for the demo, Esteban. You guys have given us a great foundation to kind of talk through here, though we do have a couple of questions, which is great to see. People are curious, people are eager. Mandisa asking, any performance gotchas to watch for with UI Toolkit? Sorry, World Space UI.
Not particularly. I mean, it like I said earlier, it uses the same system. It's based on the same foundational systems that UI Toolkit is using. So it's gonna apply to the same fundamental concerns, whether around styling and layouting and whatever those system costs. So the documentation goes a little bit on what those gotchas are. So if you follow them, or if you watch the talk in 2024 at Unite, we give one of around performance optimizations. They apply exactly the same.
Awesome. An important question that we had some people chatting about backstage that we want to make sure to get in front of people as well is Jihad asking another great question. Same as the previous question, is UGUI planned for depreciation now that we have UI Toolkit? Please keep it around. And I know Mike Geig hopped into the chat, but just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, can we shed a little bit of light on this one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, just like Eric said about GraphView, right? We're going to monitor adoption, and what we're doing with UI Toolkit, as we release 6.2 with World Space UI, we have more stuff coming in 6.3. We are getting to a point where we're going to have full feature parity with UGUI. And then we're going to monitor adoption and evaluate when is a good moment to then announce deprecation of UGUI. But we're not going to do so before the community tells us, yes, it's ready, UI Toolkit is ready, and we can actually move everything to the framework.
That's great. And the comment that I saw come through from Mike, and I want to make sure, so Mike, if you can just give me a thumbs up if I'm accurately representing this, is you said that it had been previously announced that we wouldn't be making that move to depreciate UGUI until there was feature parity in the new set of tools. I think that's my understanding, which I think, again, just puts a nice little button on. Mike says yes. Okay, so that's where we're at. So again, and thank you to everybody helping answer these questions, plus a long notification period, which is great to see as well. We've got Justin Heisman asking, will it at some point, this might be UI Toolkit more than just World Space UI, but will it at some point support making hierarchy editor / overrides? I know you can make Unity editors, but will there be a way to change or make hierarchy specific editors?
So if you mean hierarchy specific editors, like if you want access to a hierarchical tree view or widget, if that's the case, then it's coming soon.
I always like to be able to put a little breadcrumb out there. Coming soon, TM. We can't say more, but maybe more, maybe more. And we already see people kind of talking about 6.3 in the chat as well. Listen, there's a future to Unity. There's lots of other features, and we'll make sure to bring people back for 6.3 to talk about new and exciting things then as well. There was one more question I wanted to get in front of you guys before. NullX is asking, is the text a whole new system? Is this like an entire overhaul, or is this kind of additive?
The text, did you say?
Yes.
Yes. So we do have a new text backend as of 6.0, I believe, which is called the Advanced Text Generator. naming is hard. And it's a replacement for text core. So it's basically uses the same rendering, but the way it generates glyphs, the layout engine and the text engine is a completely new one. We're leveraging open source libraries to achieve full standard with Unicode. So that enables you to have full multi-language support. We support Arabic, Hebrew, any kind of right to left language, Thai, native emojis. It's amazing. So, but we did not want to kind of replace it like right away. We want to make sure that, well, there's some features that are not supported in terms of styling and formatting. So we're working progressively at reaching full parity with the existing backend. But we're very close, and once that's done, then it's going to become our default text rendering, and we're going to let go of the other ones and have only one single way to make text.
Which is great.
Oh, yes.
The last question I want to see, because I think I've seen a couple people asking and a bit of curiosity, will there be support for Text Mesh Pro in UI Toolkit?
Well, there already is, in a sense, that so all the text rendering in UI Toolkit is based off Text Mesh Pro, right? So it's time distance fields, the same kind of font, the same font assets file you're going to use. Most of the features are supported, like font fallbacks and all that stuff. Styling is achieved in a bit different way because, like outlining, for example, instead of having a different material, well, you're going to leverage USS styling, which is much more convenient in alliance with all the styling you do in UI Toolkit. But essentially, the foundation is pretty much the same, except for the new advanced text backend I mentioned earlier, which will provide way more support for Unicode.
Gotcha. I think that's all the time we have questions for. And as we've continued to remind you, and will continue to remind you, Unity community, if you have more questions, things that we weren't able to answer, things we didn't have time to get to, please check out the link that'll take you to discussions. You can get into the specific spaces, or you can provide any feedback or ask questions on that main post as well. Benoit, Esteban, you guys crushed this. You did such a good job. Do you have anything that you want to let people know before we say goodbye to you?
Oh, try it out. Leave comments, leave feedback. We're eager to see what you're going to build with it.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. Definitely support that. Like, if you try it out, all the features today, like, feel free to reach out to us, and yeah, we'll help you out.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you for having us. Yeah,
of course. Take care. All right, Unity community, we're moving along here. I hope that you guys enjoyed World Space UI for UI Toolkit. Obviously, a very exciting one in our preparation with the team. They repeatedly told me this was one of the most this was a frequently requested feature, so it's always exciting to be able to bring you guys something that we know that you would like. So we're going to continue along here. We're moving into mesh LODs. Later in the show, we've got Unity AI, DDF, and some giveaways here. But please welcome to the show another first-time guest. We've got Scott Anderson coming up to talk about mesh LODs. Scott, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
It's good to have you here. How's the day been so far?
It's been great. I'm excited to talk about MeshLOD.
That's what we like to see. And as we've been doing so far, but maybe you've joined in Flow Unity community, if you have any questions, throw a big queue up in front of them, and we will try to get them in front of our guests. So Scott, you are here to talk about MeshLODs. I know you've got both some slides and some presentation. We've kind of we've got our times mixed and mingled and ready to go. But if anyone's not familiar with your work, as you are a first-time guest, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Scott Anderson. I'm a graphics engineer at Unity, and I've been at Unity for about the last 5 years. But I have a long history in the game industry and in working on platforms and other things. Worked on Call of Duty at Sledgehammer Games, on Advanced Warfare in World War II. Worked at Oculus before Unity and Meta on Horizon Worlds, where I worked on the scripting language and Oculus Home, which is now deprecated, unfortunately, but it was a nice product for the PC VR stuff. So, and a bunch of other game studios in the past, in everything from AAA to indie.
Well, we are excited to have you, Scott, as our representative to talk about mesh LODs. And as we're going to try to keep this as tight as we can, we'll just hand things over to you and let you get running on the slides to start.
Sounds good. So this is mesh LOD. It's a new lightweight level of detail system for meshes. What do I mean by lightweight? I mean, there's lower memory usage per mesh in comparison to if you were to use hand-authored LODs with LOD group. This is mostly because we share vertex data across all level of detail, and we just add index data. See, there's a single game object and mesh renderer for all levels of detail, which, is generally speaking, this is 100% true, but the more game objects you have in the scene, the more mesh renders you have in the scene, the more overhead you'll have on your game. And there's lower rendering overhead overall. This is because all the meshes share the same vertex buffer and index buffer. So changing and switching levels of detail is just kind of an offsetting which indices we draw. And that's it. We don't have to switch meshes. We don't have to switch vertex or index buffers. We don't have to. There's very little state switching involved. Let's see, there is also, as well as this new level of detail system, a built-in import time automatic level of detail generator, which is what a lot of people are excited about with this feature. It's the first time it's been officially supported by Unity. See, it works best currently with uniform density, high triangle count manifold meshes like the one you can see on your right. With kind of disjoint meshes or things with a lot of open edges, it tends to do worse. Non-uniform density can be strange as well. It works really poorly with foliage, but generally speaking, unless you have a custom level detail system for foliage doesn't work super well with these kind of automated systems. This is how I talked a little bit about the format. This lays out how the levels of detail are stored with mesh LOD. They're all stored in a single mesh. You have one index buffer, as I mentioned before. There's a new type called mesh LOD range, which is just an index start, which is the start relative to the submesh, as you can see from this diagram. And it has an index count, which is the number of indices in the range. So once again, very lightweight. There's not a lot of new data. There's a little bit. The generator is a hierarchical quadric aerometric decimator, which is kind of like an industry standard way of decimating meshes. It simplifies by collapsing edges. So basically it gets rid of a triangle by combining two vertices in one triangle. And the quadric aerometric code is to basically find the least or the best edge collapse and the least damaging or quality damaging edge collapse. It heavily penalizes UV seam and normal breakages, but it will break UV seams and normals. So you can get some lighting issues and some UV issues in your levels of detail because we don't add vertices. It simplifies triangles in groups roughly 200 or 2048 triangle max groups of clusters, and it generates LODs until there's no valid edge collapse possible or until the LOD is generated as roughly 64 triangles. So by default with mesh LOD, you'll see a lot levels of detail compared to like how you would think with the LOD group. Those higher levels of detail tend to be very small and very low poly, so there's not actually a lot of overhead, and they tend to look bad, but they tend not to show up until things are very, very small on screen. But there are ways to limit that, which I'll show on my demo. For selection is also different from LOD group. In LOD group, you define screen relative transition height, which is roughly this size on screen or the distance on screen. And for mesh LOD, we use a LOD selection curve, which is just a slope and a bias, so it's linear. During generation time, the curve is created with a linear regression of decimator error at each level. It doesn't exactly match the error transition with the threshold, but it tries to roughly keep the same triangle density based on a tunable LOD threshold value, which I will also show in my demo. And that's set in quality settings, so you can set it per quality setting, so it can be set up per platform, etc., or based on user settings as well, of course, and a LOD selection bias, which is per mesh renderer. It does support skin mesh renderer as well, and skin meshes as well. I think I did not mention that, but it is supported by that too. See that there is also a very robust API, and it has a very large API surface. Most of the things that would make sense in mesh data, graphics, mesh rendering, ray tracing, have all added mesh LOD as a parameter, either APIs to get and set the LOD ranges, or to actually you can like pass a mesh LOD to render mesh, to render specific mesh LOD. You can get and set indices for specific mesh LOD. So I feel like it's pretty robust. It also adds an editor time generation method called generate mesh LODs. There are gaps as in mesh LOD in general, especially specifically in particle system, VFX graph, static batching, and GPU instancing, where mesh LOD works, but it always selects LOD 0. GPU resident drawer is pretty well supported. Entities graphics is not yet supported, but it should be soon, which I will talk about after the demo. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the demo now.
Ready for demo.
So I have a mesh here. As you see, it's relatively high poly. We can go into the settings. Right now, it has no mesh LOD. So all you have to do to enable mesh LOD is hit this generate mesh LOD checkbox, and it's single click and apply. That's it.
That's it.
One thing is mesh LOD will increase your import time. Usually it's not too much, but it as you can see, it does take some time. It's something to consider, especially if you are import time limited. But once again, it shouldn't be too bad. So now mesh LOD is enabled. You look in here. You can see there is a or is it? Did it not go through? Yeah, it should be. Demos, people. Yeah, it's enabled, so you can see that there is a mesh LOD preview. Yeah. So you can preview the meshes in the Mesh Explorer. In the scene, it's right now it's going to show LOD 0, but as you change it, it's actually reducing in quality. Now, like I said, because of the way the selection works and that we try and reduce the error, it actually should be in default not perceptual to people, right? We have this property that I mentioned earlier called the mesh LOD threshold in your quality settings. Open it on the run screen. Preferences.
So this is in project settings, quality?
Yeah, it's in project settings, quality. At the very bottom, there's this mesh LOD threshold. So as you increase this value, so if you increase it to 8, for example, it should push out the mesh LOD. Doesn't seem to be. Let's see. Oh, I have a LOD override on. That's another issue. That's something I meant to show. I had something on. Anyway, now it is changing it. So eight's probably pretty extreme. 50 is definitely extreme. But if you change it to 4, for example, 5. So as you see, this kind of like pushes the default or the base LOD out based on, and the mesh LOD threshold roughly corresponds to pixel density per triangle.
Awesome.
So I mean, the main reason why you want to turn this thing on is for performance reasons, right? Mm-hmm. So I have scene or a setup that includes many soldiers, right?
Oh.
So if you look at, so if I run it in game mode, we look at the stats. You can see what your triangle count is with mesh LOD. I'll go back and actually change it to default project settings. So it's like roughly 9 million triangles, so pretty high, and 28 million vertices, right? If I actually instead of just completely turning off mesh LOD, I'll show the feature that I showed kind of earlier. Maybe no. Editor crash.
That's exactly. I mean, relatability, I suppose. Were we pretty close to it, Scott? Do we feel like we got pretty close the general overview of it all?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then an unfortunate conclusion, but again, hopefully that gives everybody a little bit of a taste. Yeah. And I love when demos are literally like, we've seen it twice now. It's like, oh, it's just a checkbox. It's one checkbox, and like, here's the implications, and here's all the results of it. So that's a great thing. I know we're already kind of running over on time, but there are a couple of questions I want to make sure to get from our community as well. There was a question asked by the mastermind: does this work with ECS or game objects only? And I know there was a lot of curiosities about ECS in general. So
that's actually, if you are you not showing my screen anymore? I had one more slide actually post demo. So if you could bring up my screen.
There we go.
So here's coming soon. So these are a couple things that people have asked for, right? So Entity's graphics support is coming soon. I can say that right now. I don't know the exact timeline for it, but I do know it's been completed and it's coming soon. So I know that's something that people's looking for, definitely. So there will be ECS support. I am currently working personally on debug UX support. So this is that screenshot's a quick preview of it. It's, as you saw, there wasn't in the demo, there wasn't really a way to see that mesh LOD was working or what level of detail you had selected in the scene. So this adds some similar functionality to LOD group, where it displays labels in the scene and allows you to scrub your levels of detail and stuff like that. So, and there will be other things coming that will help you debug and help you get better ideas about performance. We are supporting this ongoing. It's not an experimental or anything like that, but like we will continue to take feedback and add support to it.
Yeah. The one other question I wanted to make sure that we got in front of people, Kana, asking, can this be used to generate/regenerate meshes with existing LODs?
Yes. And basically you can, if you have LODs already, technically works with LOD group and will generate LODs for the internal LODs. The kind of the opposite direction of that is you there, like I mentioned, there was an API, and if I had more time, I would have showed some of the code for the API. But you can use the API to, for example, take pre-authored LODs and set mesh LODs. Currently generating that curve that I mentioned is a little bit challenging out of the box. Hopefully in the future, we will have some helper functions and support where that's done a little bit more automatically for you. But yeah, you can either use authored LODs and kind of build mesh LODs for it, even though there is no direct tooling for that in the inspector. You can use the API for that.
Sorry about that. Just out here typing some messages. I know there's a couple more questions that are coming through, but in the for the sake of time, we're going to have to kind of wrap things up here. Scott, I know that you put it in your slide as well that you are looking for feedback, and it's something that I'm really trying to make sure that we get out to people. If you have questions, if you have feedback, please go and communicate those things. We always have the discussions channels open on unity.com/discussions. Discussions.unity.com. Let me just put the link in the chat and we'll let the computers do it for me. But please go and check out discussions, provide that feedback, and ask those questions. We really appreciate it. Scott, the same way that we appreciate you coming here to help us out and show us this new feature, which I've seen a lot of excitement for in the chat as well. So thank you very, very much for your time, Scott.
All right, no problem.
Of course. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. And with that, we are moving along here. We're going to turn our attention to Unity AI. We're bringing back a guest who has not been on the stream since the challenging 6 hours of Unity 6 live stream that's left me broken as an individual. But now we're back and we're stronger. We're better than ever. We're going to be talking about the Unity AI beta update with our returning guest, as I've said. Please welcome back to the show. We got Bill Cullen. Bill, how are you?
I'm great. Awesome to be here.
Great to have you.
Are you caffeinated and hydrated through this long stream?
Doing our best. We're doing our best. We're staying away from 6 hours. So that's all that really matters in my mind. Like after that one, it's anything else doesn't compare. So I'm fine. It's like you could probably throw 4 hours at me and I'd be like, I don't want to, but it's not 6. So we're good. We've got Bill here, of course, to talk about Unity AI. Bill, you've been here once before, but it's been a minute. If anyone's not familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here at Unity?
Sure. So I'm a product manager in our AI group. I'm helping lead the product development and working with our engineers to kind of define how we integrate AI into the Unity editor. And I've been working on AI for about 2.5 years, but was at Unity for about 2.5 years before that as well.
Very nice. So you've kind of switched over expertise levels, or
I've gone
areas.
To the dark side, yes.
Of course. So we do have some time dedicated here, and I know that you have a presentation. As we've been talking about the stream throughout today, we're talking about the kind of what's and the whys. There will be a dedicated Unity AI tool stream next week where we're going to be covering some of the Learn Teams content and materials there for you. So if you're eager to learn more about how to actively use it, come on back next week. And we did a stream a month and a half ago as well. So the resources are out there and there's more coming, but instead we're going to be talking about the what's and the whys. So Bill, we've set the stage for you. We are ready pretty much as soon as you are.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Sounds good.
Are you guys able to see that?
We got it.
Nice. Are you seeing my sidebar on the side there?
We are not anymore now that you're in slideshow mode, it seems.
That's beautiful. Okay. So we added AI to the Unity editor by default for 6.2 and above, which is super exciting. You'll see this AI button at the top of the editor toolbar now. And basically what we're trying to do is just make AI very easy to use, even if you have never written a line of code, you don't even know what an IDE is, you're downloading Unity for the first time, but also make it useful for longstanding Unity users that want a productivity boost. So if you download 6.2, you'll see this AI button, and it's got some stuff in there. The main two things are this assistant, which is kind of like a chatbot, as well as our generators, which allow you to generate assets. So that's what you'll see. If you download previous versions of Unity, you will not see this. So what can you do with this thing? That's what everyone wants to know. So I'll go through some examples. So in this case, you can see we can actually drag files from the hierarchy and ask a question about them. So how can I slow down this animation, for example? And so the assistant will give you an answer, and then you can go do the thing. And in some cases, we have agents that can go do the thing for you, like adjust the speed on that timeline. In that case, the user was doing it manually. So this is what we're offering. We're offering the ability to have AI just ever present and enabling a productivity boost. You don't need to set up anything. You don't need to set up like an MCP server. You don't need to bring your own API key. You don't need to have a subscription to anything else. It's just right there in Unity. I'm going to go ahead to some more demos if I can figure out how to work slides. So in this case, we're asking the assistant to write a C# script to kind of toggle some light values on that little candle. So it can generate the code, and then you can preview it, and then you can save the script to your project files. So now we've got this nice flickering kind of glow stick. So you notice is like we are obviously not in IDE. Unity is not in IDE like Visual Studio or something, or like some of the competitive AI products like Cursor. We are like wholesale integrated into Unity, and right now at least we don't sort of offer integration into those other tools. But for sure in the future we'll be integrating into IDEs and things like that. Let's see a few more things. So here you can see one of our asset generators. Here we have a sound generation model. You can actually drag a sound reference so that you can, it's kind of like an image reference when you're generating a sprite. It will use the sound energy as a reference and generate a sound based on that along with your prompt. And then you can drop that in the scene. It was pretty quick, but you may have noticed all we're doing is basically replacing the existing asset you have or creating a new one and dropping in the generated asset. So it kind of follows, super standard Unity asset management and inspectors and things like that. Let's go take a look at a few more things. So here I'm dragging a bunch of context to the scene and saying, hey, take all these assets and generate basically a basic layout with them. As you see, it's kind of randomly placed the trees on the ground plane fairly nicely. And so this is kind of the theme, like you can automate all these like sort of tedious, annoying little tasks that you can now do with AI just by talking to the chatbot. Let's do one or two more. So here's another question. When I add a flare effect to the VFX graph, can you just guide me through it? So you noticed here there's kind of two themes of what you can do. You can sort of ask for something like a question or some code, and then it gives it to you. Or you can, there's a run command that will actually allow you to run API commands in the front-end editor. So let's see an example of that as well. Oh, actually, this is another question, I think. This is a really common use case. So asking about console errors, which you're going to see all the time in your game, and how to resolve those. So the assistant will give you usually a pretty good guess, or just tell you exactly how to resolve it. This can obviously save you tons and tons of time. I think this is that run command. Yeah, here it is. So run is it's kind of synonymous with agents. So you can actually have the AI click a button for you in the editor, basically. So in this case, setting the light intensity values. So if you just don't know how to do that, or you want to automate it for some reason, you can have it go do it for you instead of you going and click at those buttons. And so the vision in the long run is that these items that the assistant can do for you are going to become dramatically more complex, and we'll have a orchestrated system of agents that will allow you to really build a game from scratch as a full Unity project that's fully editable. We're not there yet, but we're getting there pretty soon. Okay, upcoming features. In just a kind of a quick note about our releases. So we're kind of not tied or not necessarily bound to Unity editor versions. We're doing releases like every month on these packages, and sometimes even more often than that. But I wanted to give a kind of a quick look at, say, the next like 6 months or so. The assistant on the left there, that GIF that you see, is using an annotation tool that we've prototyped. So here you can actually give some visual context to the assistant instead of just chatting with it. You can lasso an area in your scene and say, add some trees here, either using some procedural assets you have or generating them. So really some really new novel ways to interact with the AI. We're also adding a whole series of agents and improved multi-step reasoning. So again, being able to do way more complex things than just changing your light settings and stuff like that. I mentioned vision input a little bit with the annotation, but you'll also be able to kind of take screenshots of your scene and say, like, do a thing here, which is sometimes a lot easier to explain to the AI versus having to type it out. And then the last point here is the latest LLM models. So the way we've set this up, at least today, it may change in the future, but we are basically just abstracting all the complexity away of you having to worry about what AI model am I using? Is it Claude? Is it GPT? Is it Llama? Like, in general, what we found is that users just want the thing that works the best. So we've taken that complexity away and just we integrate new models all the time in the back end and roll them in. In the future, we may change that and give you the option to change the front end model, but today you can't do that. And then for our generators on the right there, the GIF you see is a kind of army Humvee driving around. So this is a prototype of our 3D mesh generation, which we're super excited about. It feels like it's been coming for, I don't know, 2 years or so, but it's kind of finally here almost. And along with being able to generate the mesh, we'll have like discrete addressable parts that you can animate. We'll have LODs and kind of all the things you need to actually use the asset in the game, not just a dumb asset. And we'll also be adding things like Skybox and UI generation. And then a couple of improvements to some of the existing asset generators we have are pretty awesome. On sprites, which is kind of, for sure the most popular thing people are using right now. We're adding animated sprites so you can make sprite sheets. We're doing custom model training so you can use some reference assets and train your own LoRa right in the editor. And you'll also be able to edit with prompt, which is just a way to get a much more iterative image out of your prompts versus having to like recreate it from scratch. And then of course we're adding new models all the time. Texture and sound, we're adding new models later this fall. And then on animation, we're doing a much faster generation right now. I think it takes like a minute to a minute and a half to create a humanoid animation. So that's going to get cut down by about 50% or maybe 80%. And then much improved foot tracking and body tracking. So that's some of the cool stuff coming. And then just a couple of mentions before we kind of get to Q&A and stuff. Mm-hmm. We have a public roadmap as well, which I think has been mentioned a couple times. There's a link right there. But we have a lot of the stuff that we're thinking about doing or have committed to already there in pretty good detail. So we'd love to hear your feedback because there's no point in us building it if it's not useful for you. So we really, really value that. And you can put in your own ideas and you can vote on the stuff we have there. So I really encourage you to go check that out.
Yeah, I think this is a super maybe unique opportunity. Like we keep saying like, hey, everybody, we'd love to hear your feedback. But this is like one of few features that we've provided like, hey, here's the plan. What do you guys think? Be involved in this process with us as we develop. So definitely go. And it's a super easy process to go in and see what's already been made, what's being worked on, and what's being theorized for the future. So I know we've been putting the links in the chat there. Make sure, please, to go and make sure that your opinions are heard on this.
Jackson, have you voted on any of these features?
I've not yet, but I promise once I'm done with the live streams, that's where I'll be. Nice. Yeah.
Along with talking about future stuff, I wanted to give just a little glimpse of kind of some stuff that we're working on. I mentioned kind of like, being able to iterate with prompts and be able to create a wholesale game from scratch. So this is a little bit of a preview of that. It's not like releasing super soon, but it's kind of coming in the future. So you can see this scene, you're like actively iterating with the AI on the scene, right? So, add the house, add the props around it, add the skybox. Maybe that skybox is generated by one of our generators, adding procedural assets like the trees and vegetation. And then here's a cool annotation. You can actually just draw in the scene and have some new props added there. And then we zoom into a little fire here and, add some VFX, add a flame there to really bring it to life. And then you can actually just ask it how to improve the scene too, right? What can I add here? So really, we really see this as a way to kind of like just iterate incredibly fast. In a lot of cases, you can just use your existing, asset library you have. But in some cases, if you don't have the assets, you want to generate prototype assets, you can do that too. So hopefully this is pretty cool and exciting to you. And we've been having a lot of fun building this stuff. And as a reminder, like all this stuff is currently in beta and it's completely free and unlimited. Which we certainly have some people abuse, which is kind of awesome and funny. We can see which obfuscated user IDs are doing tons and tons of our points. But we plan to keep everything in beta until we have like a really, really high level of quality with the assistant and the generators, and we're getting really, really good feedback. So we're just going to remain in beta and keep it free and unlimited until that happens. So no advertisement on when we go to kind of general availability and things start costing money yet.
Yeah, it's something that I've seen the conversations already happening. Mike's in chat, so is Simon, and kind of talking about how we're waiting to kind of get the feedback on how to structure that system and what people are really interested in. What did Mike say? It's gone. You guys are so chatty in the chat. It's great. Mike said, the goal is to make it fair. It doesn't benefit us to build a thing that no one is willing to pay or use. So like, again, it's really cool to see talking to all of the different people today and everyone being like, we want feedback. We want to help make this something that people are excited to use. So that's really encouraging.
And then along with that, it's actually a good segue to kind of our guiding principles. And there's a bunch of detail this on the URL below. You guys can drop it in the chat. But we're being super open and transparent about like how the thing is designed, which models we're using, why we made certain product decisions. So like the key principles we're kind of designing around are context awareness and integration, right? So just making it insanely easy and insanely powerful, being directly in the editor. There's no separate setup, no separate API keys, no separate like billing outside of Unity. So making it really easy, and also having context of your project. And the second thing is data controls and customization. So this is for sure the hot button issue, right? Like how does Unity AI work? What are you doing with my data? So just so everyone knows, we don't index your project on the cloud. We don't use any of your data for training by default. And you own all the inputs and outputs of the prompts that you use. Our AI sort of data controls align with our new developer data framework that is going to be talked about after this, that we recently launched as well. And we have a whole series of kind of controls and settings that you can read about on the guiding principles webpage there, around like disabling the AI button in the editor itself, enabling and disabling training. You can actually disable the whole like feature suite for your Unity org if you don't want to touch it or use it at all. And we give you a lot of choices there to kind of set it up how you want. But if you guys have feedback and don't think we're going far enough, we'd love to hear that too. And then the last thing is curated models. So we're integrating, what we think are kind of the best LLMs for using in Unity, as well as these asset generator models that are fully like sort of integrated in a way where, again, you don't really need to know or care how they work. They're just there at your fingertip and they can get you what you need. But if you want to know more, of course, if you want to know more about those models, like who the vendors are, how they work with your data, that sort of thing, you can go read about it on this page.
Perfect. And I just put a link to that in the chat as well. So if you guys want to go take a look, and if you're watching this as a VOD after the fact, I'll make sure to put all of the links in there for you guys in the description of the video. So you'll have access to everything we need.
Awesome. And then, a reminder, we're doing a much more in-depth demo next week. What day is that, Jackson?
Next Thursday. That should be the 28th. We've got Manu from the advocacy team coming back to show off some of the Learn team's new prototyping using UAI coursework.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I was going to share. To open it up for Q&A?
Yeah, we've got a couple of good ones. And again, thank you to Simon and to Mike for answering some of these questions as we go. But to kind of get out some of these bigger ones in front of people as well, we had Joe Code asking, can I bring my own API key /LLM so that I can use the LLM that's approved by my company?
Yeah, great question. So today you cannot. But that's something that's evolving. We may add that in the future. I think it's on our public roadmap to get some boats. But we've had a number of requests for that very reason, where certain studios or companies have a procurement process that is very strict. And so this would allow you to kind of basically use the integration that we've built, but use your approved LLM. So not right now, but I'd say strong possibility in the future.
Awesome. Not a question, but wanted to bring in a comment from the Bull that says, I spun up a prototype in days that used to take me weeks or months. Nailed it. Jihad asking, question for Bill. Can we get a sample project for Centis? Don't remember its new name, where it shows how to inference an open source LLM in Unity. And honestly, if you don't have the answer, Bill, that might even be a question for Mike, who runs some of our demo stuff. Any insights?
So we have a number of sample projects for Inference Engine, which is the replacement name for Centis. We don't have a sample project with an LLM, but I think I would like to do that. So request taken.
Ooh, I like that. In real time. We just watched progress. Yeah. I know, like I mentioned, a lot of these questions got answered ahead of time. There's some questions about some of the pricings and things like tokens and what's the quota? Is it daily limit? Is it monthly limit? Those types of things. Again, everyone's looking for that feedback, but right now in its beta phase, it is free to use. So the important thing is that people go in there and ask a lot of the questions, they use the tools, they provide that feedback so that we can make informed decisions that kind of strike the balance between us. Mike is communicating to us, Bill, that Corey, Dr. Green, as we've called him on live stream, is eager to make an inference engine demo. So that's something that we might see soon.
Rad.
Yeah.
I can talk a little bit about the business model.
Sure.
Just so that it doesn't seem so out of reach.
Sure.
Let's see. Are you able to see my screen again?
I think we can pull it up. Trey. All right, we're live.
So this is a mock-up. This is not final. It may change completely. But basically the way we've set it up is we try to design it to be like two tenants here. Fully integrated into existing Unity subscription model, which is like well adopted. And what I would like to call infinitely flexible. It's almost infinitely flexible. So there's two parts. So what you're seeing here is like kind of the wizard that you go through when you get a Unity subscription and you set up your account. So Personal, Pro, Enterprise, and Industry. You can see down here on the bottom now, there might be a number of AI points that when you get a Pro, Enterprise, or Industry subscription on a per month basis, you get points every month. And they expire and refresh every month, and that's kind of your base subscription. And then personal users who obviously don't pay anything to Unity, you have the option of buying a base subscription as well. Okay, and then again, those points would expire and refresh every month, and different actions in the AI suite will cost different things. And then the personal subscription, it would be really low priced. It's probably going to be something like $10. Right, a lot of base AI subscriptions are in like the $20, $30 range. We know a lot of Unity creators are like first-time developers, sometimes students. So we wanted to offer like a super low price entry point. And then these one-time points, you might call them bundles. This is where it's kind of infinitely flexible, infinitely expandable. So if you burn through all your monthly points, you have a creative burst, or you're working on a huge project, you can just go buy points that go last for a year, and you use them and burn them down, and then you can buy like any quantity of these as well. And also in previous versions of our AI product, like Muse, we actually didn't even support managed customers. Like we call them managed customers, but like companies that we invoice for your Unity bill. But now any of those customers are supported, and they can do this process as well. So that's sort of like the basics of how it works. You have the monthly points, and you have the annual points. You can buy as much as you want. And then all these points are actually pooled at your Unity ID org level. So if you have 5 users in your org, all the users can access all the points, and any user can use them. And in the future, we'll probably add like some user controls so that your sound guy can't blow all your points on generating sounds if you don't want him to.
Yeah.
And then as we get a little closer to the GA launch and we get sort of final pricing stuff, we'll release like the points cost of each of the actions, which will evolve over time as we add different models and different quality of things.
Yep. I think this is a really cool kind of sneak peek. It is worth adding and hammering in the disclaimer that this is preliminary and things can change. Like Bill said right off the hop, it might look not like this. So it's good to kind of see that there's different avenues of acquisition and being able to engage with it, which is good. And the other thing that I really want to make sure we touch on is C-Strong asking, do we have a time frame for AI pay to go into effect? So Bill, I know that we're kind of handling the beta slightly differently. Did we want to really just put a button on that as well?
Sure. Really, there's no timeline. Like I would love to see it like by the end of the year, but it almost like doesn't even really matter. We're taking as long as we need to make sure it's super useful and actually does improve productivity and is super reliable before we start charging for it.
Yep, that's perfect. So again, the more people that are using it, the more feedback that people are providing, the more informed we can make the product, the device, everything, right? So that's kind of what we want to see. I think that's everything, Bill. I think you crushed it. Thank you for coming equipped and ready to go. Is there anything else before we say goodbye to you, Bill, that you want to make sure that people know?
I would just say I really appreciate all the feedback from the community already. We've already released like 4 or 5 pretty big updates in the 3 months of the beta so far. So that's all based on direct feedback from users. So keep the feedback coming.
Awesome. Yeah.
Next time I'll wear my flannel.
Oh, okay, good. Just so that we're on the same page. We're ready to go. More flannel in the world. It's cozy. It's warm vibes. That's what we want to see. So Bill, next time we see you, flannel, if not 2. All right.
Double flannel.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Say goodbye to Bill. Thanks again for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And Unity community, you're doing great. Stick around for this next segment here. We're going to be talking about the developer data framework. It's going to be really exciting stuff. I can already see Mike behind the scenes. His eyes are lit up. He's excited to be here, but also he is very much like Santa Claus and has brought gifts. So without further ado, let's bring back to the show. We got Principal Advocate Mike Geig. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to train the community so they'll know that, oh, Mike's coming here. He's going to give us stuff.
Mike is on stream. We're getting things today.
I got to be honest. I had this whole plan prepped to how I was going to lead into this section, but I've been on chat so much. This is the most active I've seen chat on here in a long time that it's kind of just flown out of my mind. But
that's okay.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I'm happy to go ahead.
Yeah, you are right. Like when we do hey, what's new in Unity? That's when people come in, they're curious, they're eager, they want to learn what they can take forward and what they can look forward to in terms of creating their own projects. So you are 100% correct. This is when they're most excited. And thank you to you for asking questions. I also enjoyed that someone was like, hey, are we going to talk about this? And you were like, yeah, me in 3 minutes. I'll see you in a second.
Exactly. So I'm here to talk about the developer data framework. And I want to tee this up with a little bit of context and say that, I think we all understand right now that data is becoming the hot topic of this generation. And data use and needs and stuff is everywhere. And a great example I have is I have a smart TV, which, by the way, that's the most terrible idea ever. Buy a TV that just gets slower the longer I own it. But I have a smart TV that now was like, I'm going to take a screenshot of everything you're doing and upload it to a server every 5 minutes, and you can't turn it off. Like, this stuff is everywhere. So at Unity, right, we're also trying to use data to build better tools, build better solutions, but we understand that people don't just want to give all their data away. They want to have control and visibility. And that's why we've implemented this developer data framework, which effectively is a series of definitions and controls that allows you to understand what your data is, what data Unity can even see, and what Unity can do with it. And it puts you effectively in control of all of that stuff, right? And actually, if you want to pull up my screen here, we can talk about this. So I've got a project here, and I was going to build like some infographic or whatever. And I was like, you know what, actually, I'm in Unity, so I'm just going to use Unity. So I just created some UI here, not the UI toolkit. I'm sorry, team. I just used UGUI because it was fast. But basically, we have this concept of developer data. And the developer data is basically your data, right? It is a unified definition for the tools moving forward that use this, called developer data. And it's got a few different components, but it's effectively your stuff, right? We just gave it a name so we could define it in our terms of service, and you can understand what that means. And developer data has a couple of pieces. There's essential data, which is data that is essential to the operation of Unity tools and services. There's additional data. There's other stuff you may want to give us. There's third-party data that you can connect and share if you want. And then in that essential data, we have this thing called diagnostic data, which is something that not only powers our new diagnostic dashboard, but allows you to have insights into things on the runtime, like crashes or Android ANRs, right? Or performance impacts out in the real world, so you can see how things are performing. So that's kind of this data, and then you can actually control it using the dashboard here. And I'll actually pop this open too. Here I've got the demo you were just looking at. This is the dashboard for it. This is my Unity 6.2 graphics demo project. But if I come in here, well, first off, this is where I would see all these sweet new diagnostics, but I've not actually built this and run it on devices out in the wild. So, there's nothing here. But if I go into settings, I can see now this new thing in the settings for projects, Unity 6.2 beta 5 and forward. So at this point now 6.2 for everyone. This thing called developer data. And if I click on here, this is where I can control on the per project level what Unity can see and what Unity can do with it. And it's very important to separate those two things out, because you might be like, Unity can see all these things, but we only wanted you to do this very specific thing or whatever. And so in here, we have collection settings. And there's a couple things, some nuances. I know there's not a ton of time. I could talk about this for a long time. The more I'm learning about data, the more I'm like, this is this fascinating world that I'd never considered before. But collection data is just the things that we effectively can see. And a lot of people get hung up on that word collection, because collection can mean I'm picking this thing up, I've collected it, I'm putting it down. Yeah. Or it can mean I've picked this thing up and I'm keeping it forever. Right. And usually what we mean with collection is I'm picking this thing up and I can put it back down. So a great example is if you type a sentence into a search bar, you are effectively giving that search bar data. It's collecting it for the purposes of giving you search results, right? And so there are things called essential data, which is always on, because without that data being on, things literally just would not work. Right. If I can't see what you're searching for, I cannot give you results. If you're using Unity AI and you type fire truck as your prompt, if I'm not allowed to see that you type the sentence fire truck, I cannot give you fire trucks, right? So essential data is just always on, because things don't work without it. And then you can do additional recommended data. As for other stuff, you can connect things. And then there's also usage data. Again, using your data for your explicit benefit to make these things work is always enabled, because again, they don't work if you don't have that permission. If you don't want that permission, you basically just don't use the thing. And then you have the ability to be like, hey, you know what? Actually, I want this to work with customer-facing features and functionality. And the neat thing in here is if I go show examples and show you things like predictive insights or how like genre-based benchmarks and reducing exposure to irrelevant ads. You can also say, you know what, use my data for modeling and aggregation insights and all sorts of stuff in here. Do you want us to be able to use your data for technical support? Whatever. It's worth pointing out that until you configure your data settings, let's say you never come into this dashboard, then by default, we use the most conservative settings, which means by default, if you don't specify anything, then your settings are purely essential data only and only for products and services for your benefit. So we're not training on your data. We're not doing anything unless you tell us we can. So I think that's also an important thing to understand is we want it to be very clear when you're sharing data with us and when you're allowing us to use it for things, you have to give us permission to do it. We don't want to trick anyone. That's not going to benefit anybody here. We want you to say, I want this thing. And as a result, I'm going to give you this thing. Awesome. And so that's kind of the approach that we're taking. Again, I could talk a lot about this. This has been a long stream already. So I'm happy just to kind of make this more conversational at this point.
No, this is great. The one thing that I wanted to say, because Mike, you explained it to me in a way that I really clicked. You used a restaurant as a metaphor for collection settings. Can you just throw that out for people? Because I thought it was a really elegant way to paint a picture.
Yeah. So one of the things that when we first announced the developer data framework, people on discussions and basically online, there was a lot of confusion over this concept of essential data. And what's Unity doing with my data? Why are you taking this data? What if I don't want you to have essential data? And I think, just like me, I had never heard that term before. It is a legally definable term. Essential data is literally the things that are required for something to work. And the example that Jackson's alluding to is if I go to a restaurant and the server comes up to me and asks what I want to eat, I have to tell them what I want to eat. I'm giving them essential data about me. And by virtue of me being at the restaurant, I'm giving them permission to hear my order and go and make me the thing I've asked for. All right. If they're not allowed to hear what I want to eat, they cannot make my food. And another interesting thing, and I never really thought of it this way until someone internally pointed it out, that by virtue of opening Unity, the editor, and dragging a model or texture in, you were effectively allowing us to collect that essential data. Because if we can't, even though it's not connected to the internet or server or whatever, just if the Unity editor cannot see your model or texture or sprite, you can't make a game. So it's actually already and always sort of been there. It's just not really at the forefront of people's minds when they think about using Unity to make games, right? And so it's an interesting way to think about it. And I will also point out that currently, not everything falls under the umbrella of the developer data framework. It is brand new. Over time, we'll be adding more tools and more services and more things that utilize these settings. But it is a starting point to just get everyone talking about data the same way and getting everyone comfortable by understanding, again, their control of the data and what you can do with it.
Yep. The MetaMax says, love the transparency. And that's literally the whole intention here. It's the intention of bringing Mike on to talk about it. It's the intention of the DDF in general, is to allow people to see, to kind of hopefully remove that, that snap reaction to, oh, data, you're collecting data, and that we've seen it, right? It's a polarizing topic. So again, it's an effort to make sure that everyone is looped in and giving information and control on these types of things, right, Mike?
I like what Game Dev said in chat. They stealing.
They be stealing.
They be stealing.
They be stealing.
No, it's funny because I brought this up internally, and someone, one of the devs working on the team was actually quite surprised. They're like, we've built this thing so you absolutely know that we aren't stealing. That's the whole purpose of the thing, is to be very legally transparent. Be like, this is what we can do with it and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting with that. And someone said the restaurant doesn't tell every other restaurant what you ordered, and that is true. Now you could say, hey, you know what? Customer facing features and functionality, I do want you to tell other restaurants. And interestingly enough, in the real world, that happens. I usually stay at a particular hotel chain, and they keep a profile on me so that if I go to other hotels, they know my preferences. And I'm sure I signed a thing somewhere that told them they could do that. I didn't know it, and I would have no concept of where to go and find that right and revoke it. The whole point of the DDF is you know exactly where that right lives, and you know exactly where to go to revoke it. So again, this is a thing that exists, right? People do it, and we're trying to just be like, you know what? Let's just bring it to the forefront. Let's just put it right in front of you so you have visibility.
Yep. Absolutely. And I love to see it. And also love to see that exactly what I said about the snap judgment about data happened immediately. We did it.
Right. Exactly.
You hear data,
it is funny.
And you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's amusing. And I'm the same way, right? In my personal life, anything that wants my data, I'm like, nope, I'm good. But it's funny that like it's an attempt to be transparent, which actually makes people very suspicious.
Right. Weird, right? Like before we said nothing and you guys were fine, but now we're trying to tell you everything. And now you're concerned.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea is, and again, as we add more stuff, and I did see the question in the chat, do we plan on adding everything to this? Maybe, right? I think the idea is to get as many things under this umbrella as possible. I can't say for 1000% certain that always everything will be. I know things like Unity ads, right, is an outlier case with its own set of terms, because that's different than being a data like processor. It also involves being a data controller, which is data definitions that are kind of beyond my scope. So not everything will probably fit neatly under this always, but the idea is that we want to bring things here, and we want to make it so that you can easily see everything. I also actually pull up my screen again real quick here because I want to show one other thing that I don't know if people are aware of. So I showed you the dashboard, and the dashboard as a place to control your settings is great because let's say you are a project manager or you manage many projects at a company, and you don't necessarily want to install Unity and download the projects to manage the settings. You can go to the dashboard for all of these projects and change their settings there without needing it. But let's say you never, ever, ever want anything from your project to hit the dashboard, to be controlled in any way, shape, or form through there. Well, you can do that too. Because I know a lot of like, especially folks who work in confidential work, government work, defense contractors, things like that, they have very strict requirements. Well, if you create a project, you can go into your project settings, and under diagnostics, this is where the diagnostic data, which is a subset of essential data, lives. You can turn this off here, and you're going to be like, hey, by the way, this cuts the hard line. This is everything. You sure? And I can say, yeah. And now it's going to warn me that, hey, by the way, you've turned everything off. Great. Now Unity can no longer see, collect, use anything. Project name, essential data, diagnostic, nothing. Right? That's the hard line. So if you really, really don't want anything to work, just turn it off. Right? That's the idea. And that feature again was added in the 6.2, I believe, beta 5.
Awesome. I had things, but like you said, we are running long, and that's not to say that we need to wrap up. It's to say that my mental state is slowly deteriorating. A number of people, Mike, asking about cloud. If I don't upload my project to the cloud in any way, does that change how data is collected?
Correct. And I'll take a moment to talk about this because there was the hub update that projects were cloud connected, and this was a mixture of two kind of challenges. One is that nothing was ever actually on the cloud. Your project just appeared in the dashboard, which was bad naming and stuff like that. But also, some people didn't want that. Cool. We rolled that back, right? Understood. But basically, if you create a project not connected to the cloud, right, and you come into your project and you turn this off, or you never connect it to begin with to any services or anything, then yeah, nothing is collected. Everything is good. Obviously, things like Unity AI, the diagnostic stuff won't work. Analytics won't work. Anything that requires a cloud project or cloud ID. But yeah, we'll make it a completely offline project. So you absolutely have access to do that. And if that's a concern, you should do that and then just turn things on when you need them.
Perfect. Couple of questions that I have collected. Actually, before we do that, Mike, why don't we start up the giveaway? Then we'll do some Q&A, and then that way we can kind of conclude it all. So Mike has some swag. We're giving away 5 pieces of Unity swag. If you would like to enter, these are the instructions. Please pay attention very closely. Head to twitch.tv/Unity. So I know a lot of you are watching on YouTube. Just pop on over there, twitch.tv/Unity. You might need to make an account, but just put !giveaway in the chat and you will be entered. We will pull 5 names and those will be our winners. What are we giving away, Mike?
I actually haven't decided yet.
Okay.
We got stuff. Now, Esteban and myself, we each have a collection of stuff. I think we got some the Unity playing cards, like it's a trading card game. I believe we've got some books, pens, stickers. We can root around the swag pile.
Maybe it's a thing where like we're going to connect the winners to you directly. Like, do they just come with like a shopping list, or you going to give them options or something?
No, I figured just you can just connect them to us, and then I'll talk with Esteban, see what we got, and basically send you some stuff. I will warn you though, in order to send you something, you have to give me the essential data of your address, or else I can't mail it to you. So I'm just warning you right now.
Okay.
You know, it's weird. Ever since doing this, everything in life I'm looking at and going, that's essential data. That's not essential. But the weirdest things, right? Like, you go to the grocery store and you buy a thing. It's like, do you need a bag? That's essential data. If I answer that, you'll have collected that information about me. It breaks your brain.
People have requested 1 year of Unity Pro, so I don't know if you pull those strings. All right, these are the questions that I have. If anyone has major questions that they want to get in front of Mike about the data stuff, that's what I've been calling it, the data stuff. Please let us know. Lana Lux also popping into the Twitch chat. Thank you very much for being here. Lana, we appreciate you and hope that you're having a fantastic day. We're talking to Mike about 6.2 stuff. Everyone should go and check out and support Lana Lux on Twitch. Now, Mike, the most important question I've seen come through was from Null X that said beard tutorial ? So
they want a beard tutorial?
I think so.
I don't know, man. My hair just grows like that. I don't
just heard it.
You know, I used to use products and stuff, and then my hair got all weird and wavy. And the moment I stopped, it just straightened back out. So
there we are.
I don't know. Beards.
We've got Mr. Awesome asking a great question. I want to know where in my level players are being stuck. Can this help with that kind of like data analysis?
I would love to answer your question, Mr. Awesome, but I'm also seeing in chat where you said I'm blocked. And so I'm not sure that I'm allowed to answer that question. No, I'm just teasing you. I don't know that developer data specifically will answer that, because it's more about hardware diagnostics and understanding game performance and game crashes and stuff like that. However, Unity Analytics or third-party analytics, whatever you want to use, that's what that's for, right? That's you can put in the flags and be like, the start of levels, end of levels, or finding the fall off when people stop playing your games, and what level were they on when they stopped playing the game. And if you just happen to notice, like, everyone just seems to stop playing after level 4, which, if anyone remembers, Battletoads was the racing level and everyone hated that one. That starts to be like, okay. So I don't believe that diagnostic data will be that for you, though analytics, which falls under the developer data framework, would do that for you.
Awesome. The next question might be our last, as we do have to wrap up the stream, but Mendisa said, saw mention of getting crash analytics type data from the dashboard. Can we link it to our external solutions, for example, Firebase or BigQuery?
That's a great question. I know you can opt to bring those pieces of data in. I don't know if you can bring it out. It's one I've just not asked. Maybe yes, maybe no. I suppose we could try to follow up and find an answer for you. I guess that's an answer I should have had, because I just don't know.
And that's what discussions is for, right, Mike?
That's right. That's right. Go to discussions, ask that question. We'll get you an answer. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think to ask that question, because it seems so very obvious now, but here we are. Everyone has blind spots.
Everyone has blind spots. That's why we always put out the disclaimers. Not everybody has every answer, and we are only human. So that's what discussions is all about. Mr. Awesome wants to know when we're bringing back Clocked and Loaded. So
I don't know. We got to figure out a really good idea.
That's what it is. So if you guys have good ideas for Clocked and Loaded, please drop them in the comments of any of the videos. Gamescom is starting in 5 minutes, so we can't compete. We can't do that. We wouldn't do
Legally.
that to you guys.
No, I'm joking.
So yeah, we're not allowed. I'm going to close up the entries to the giveaway here. I'm going to pull 5 names and read them aloud so that you know that I've pulled them. If you hear your name called, I will be sending you a DM on Twitch from the Unity account. We'll never ask for any information from you. I will give you a code and an email address. You are going to send Mike a message with the secret code, and he will give you what you need in terms of.
That's how we know you're not lying.
That's how we know you're not lying. To just say, I won, but that's what it's going to be. So pay attention to your Twitch DMs. First winner is Lumiere Morte. We've got Liz Kimber. Congratulations. Chiantos. We've got Dark Muppeteer, and last but not least, Lazy by Nature. I will
like
reach
that
out
name,
to
Lazy
all
by
of you.
Nature.
Lazy by Nature, strong, right? So that's going to wrap everything up for today for what's new and exciting in 6.2. Again, if you guys have any more questions, you can always head over to discussions. We've got all the information for you there. You can ask follow-up questions, provide feedback, include your suggestions for what you want to see in future, those types of things. Mike, a massive thank you to you for coming in to talk about data. And I'm glad that you found such a passion for it. It's really made me pleased for you. But yeah, Mike, before we let you go, anything else that we want to let people know?
You're all awesome and amazing, worthy of love, and unique individuals.
Love that. Awesome and also amazing. And with that, Mike, we'll say goodbye. We'll see you again soon, I'm sure. Unity community, we are going to wrap up this stream here. As we do, I want to let you know that our next stream is on Thursday this week. We're going to be showing a work pipeline with Magic of Voxel. So how to create texture, import, animate your own voxel art using this tool in combination with Unity. We are going to be joined by the legend Joy. Joy will be back. It's been a minute. We're calling it the joy of video game art. Fun, right? Fun. There's a link available in the chat, so head on over and see it. Check it out whenever you're able. A big thank you to all of our guests for coming in and sharing their knowledge, their experience, and being willing to connect with the Unity community. Of course, a big thank you to all of the Unity community for being here, for being inquisitive, for being excited, for being cautious and curious as well. That always is refreshing on top of everything else. Keep that feedback coming, as Simon is saying in chat. And a massive thank you to Trey working behind the scenes to put this all together. He's been fantastic, don't you think? Unity community, until I see you all again, my name is Jackson. Have a great rest of your day.